Hi, I'm Michelle Mercurio. Welcome to the show where we interview people who have ditched their plan to pursue their purpose. Let's dive in. Hi, I am joined today by Michelle Martello, founder and owner of Minima Designs. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am so glad you're here because I have a really important question to start us out.
Okay.
What the hell do you do?
I'm out. I know we're going to go right into it. I started my life as a web designer many years ago.
Great.
And now I call myself a digital strategist. That's probably going to change too. I help people leverage their brands online. So I help them, build online courses and products, help them figure out what the hell they're going to sell, what they're going to create, and what they're going to do next. So I'm really a Jill or jack of all trades, kind of done it all, seen it all, and just, love what I do. It's more about who I get to work with than the actual thing that I do.
Same here, and this is one of the things that I absolutely love about you, and that we actually got to sit down and talk a few weeks ago, really in depth. You and I feel like jive on so many different levels, and you have many identities as well. So tell me a little bit about the identities that you assign to yourself.
Oh, that's such a big question. It's so interesting when I help others do that work of like, I do blank for blank, and it's so hard to do it for yourself.
Right.
I get to work with people who are leveraging their brands online, trying to figure out, digital products and courses and what they're going to offer next, and, really building things that light them up. And that's
right.
Where I get excited is I actually help a lot more people say no to projects than say yes to projects.
I think that's really important.
It's really important work, yeah.
Is that why they call you Smartello?
So I also am a smartass. And so because I have a lot of technical knowledge, I started web design in the late 90s. May not look like it, but Retinol. I started in the late 90s, and when I started, you had to code what you designed.
Right.
There weren't, there wasn't Squarespace, there wasn't even WordPress when I started. I used to get, it's gonna definitely date myself, I used to order magazines from the UK, or go to Barnes & Noble and get the magazines with the CD-ROMs, and I taught myself off of those tutorials how to do everything. And so I really have kind of been there since, the first round of the internet. And so I taught myself web design, I taught myself graphic design, and then I taught myself all the other things. So I really have explored a lot of the different technical tools. And so, when people are like, hey, how do I do that? In fact, before I got over here, somebody's like, hey, do you know the app for that? And I'm like, yes, I do. And, I'll get DMs all the time, and I'll get people asking me like, how do you do that? And I just know because I've done it.
For the longest time, I think that you and I just creeped into each other's DMs on a lot of different things.
Yeah.
But one of the things that continuously strikes me about you is that you are steeped in possibility. So talk to me about, and you're also funny as hell. You are so funny. So I feel like humor and possibility are two things that really make your brand, the brand of Michelle Martello, stand out. So I really want to talk a little bit about that. How do you find the intersection of kind of humor and possibility in your day-to-day work?
Yeah, I've worked for people, I've done other jobs. If we're not having fun at this, what's the point? I've done that job where you're like, I can't work with this client. In fact, even in the first part of my business, I'm almost at year 16. At the first part, there were clients where I'm just like, I cannot work with more people like this. And, I started building out the won't work with client list, won't work with married couples, won't work with lawyers, won't work with, so you start to build out your list of what you won't work with. And for me, a big one is have to have a sense of humor. Work and life, it really does blend for me. So my clients, they're probably gonna stay at my house at some point. We're probably gonna go out to dinner. We're probably gonna go to a house music dance class. That's just how I roll, and that's how I wanna operate, because, it just blurs the lines.
Right.
And probably not the best with boundaries, but those clients have also been there for me when I've had my hardest moments.
I think that when we start businesses, we often start with what we think other people think we should do, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I should do this, I should do that, I should do this, I just have to. The two phrases that I hate is I should and just have to. Those things should not have a place. There's a should, but in my book, they don't. They absolutely don't in my own business, because I didn't start a business to be miserable. If
Yeah.
I want to be miserable, I'll go work for somebody else.
Exactly. I've seen my husband did 23 years in corporate. I can definitely seem miserable, and you could not pay me enough. So
Right.
it's funny you say about like what we should do or what we, when I started my business, I mean, I was in my late 20s, and all the things I thought I needed to have. I thought I needed business cards. I thought I needed, fancy like equipment. I thought I needed, so anybody who's like old school will know, like I thought I needed to know how to code in Flash. Well, that thing's dead in the water, right?
Yeah.
And so, all those things that I thought I needed,
Right.
all I needed were connections.
Absolutely.
That's really all that I needed.
Right.
And connections, obviously, to do great work, and be willing to like show up and talk about it. I mean, frankly, I always tell the designers that I mentor, if you just show up actually on time and do the work, you're 90% ahead of everybody else in the game. So, I mean,
Absolutely.
there's just so many people who flake out or, don't respond or don't deal with the client issues or whatever, and they're just like, I'm done, bye. And I'm like, if you actually just complete the project, you'll probably get more work. So.
And I think that, though, showing up even with personality.
Yeah.
So there's so many times that I've heard that, like, oh, I have my home hat on or I have my work hat on.
Yeah.
And it should be the same hat.
Yeah.
Integrate it. So,
Well, one of my clients is Laura Belgray from TalkingShrimp.com, and I've had the fortune to work with her for like 7 or 8 years now. We've done a couple websites. I've, created her PowerPoint decks and all her PDFs and
she's
things
got a
like
great website.
Thank you very
Yes,
much.
so-
It's fun. It's like,
It's fun and it's interesting and she's a cool human.
I mean, when your mascot is a talking shrimp, like, of course, and so, we had a whole vision, it's a whole 70s retro
Right.
vibe, and that's the thing, like, when I am designing, I can't do templates. Like, I'm gonna do something really creative and unique. That's kind of what I got known for was my aesthetic. And so, when I'm doing stuff, I want to be memorable. My tagline for the longest time was like, build a memorable site so that, people actually remember who F you are, because, in the world of templates and box things and, just everybody looks the same. Everybody's got the damn photo with the coffee cup and the gold paper clip and the, nobody's actually showing personality.
Yeah.
And for me, like, showing your personality in your copy, in your photos, in your, even what you create. The one,
Same.
one other thing I get with my newsletters, I try to write a weekly or every other week newsletter. They're like, oh my God, you're so fun. Or
Right.
like, you're writing like I'm a friend. And that's one thing that Laura always talks about is
Right.
email from a bestie. Like, you're
That's
writing to your friends.
Exactly how I write all my emails as well, which is why I told you that one time somebody said, oh my gosh, I got an email from another Michelle and I thought it was you.
I thought it was you. That's the highest compliment,
Exactly.
honestly.
And I was,
yeah.
same here.
Yeah.
Same here. It's
Yeah.
such a compliment.
Yeah.
I think that everything you just said about a website or about a business can also be applied to life.
Yeah.
Right? You have a plan, but then you ditch it. So let's talk about a time in your life where maybe you had a plan and you decided, that's not it, or a massive transformation happened.
Yeah. I've never been one of those folks to have like, oh, in 5 years I'm going to do this and, X, Y, Z. I'm a little more loosey-goosey, which is, I knew I never wanted to build a big agency. I knew I
Right.
didn't want that life. I knew I didn't want to have like a huge team. I've done all that, and it's just not where I want to play.
Me too.
Right? And, in 2018, it was a really, really rough year. In fact, I say 2018 prepped me for 2020, because I'm like, 2020 felt like a breeze. Unfortunately, my mother-in-law got very sick and she passed away. And then, honestly, like 2 weeks after she passed away, my husband got gravely ill and we could not figure out what was wrong. And that was a 6-month odyssey of just hospital visits and ERs. And, I really couldn't launch anything or do any, like, things that I had thought about doing. I literally was functioning like right here. Like, what can I do to just keep
Right.
the ship running? And, like I said about the clients that are always there for me, my best client was on the phone with me in the hospital, helping me navigate the system. Because, she had been married to a doctor and she was like, okay, here's what you're going to do. And it's just
Love
like, those are the folks who showed up for me and continued to pay me and like, allowed me, the grace to be like, you know what, just take the month off or do what you need to do. And
Right.
I feel really fortunate. He's doing much better now. But it was one of those things of like, I'm not going to be writing newsletters in the hospital room, which I was doing actually sometimes. And I'm just like, I just can't do anything
No.
more than this.
I went through almost exactly the same thing, and it was 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
And if I didn't have the clients that I had, right? If I was working with people who weren't aligned to what it is that I value
Yeah.
and what it is that they value, when my parents died, that wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
Right? It would have never happened.
Yeah.
But the fact that I didn't go into business to just perform transactions.
Yeah.
I'm here to be connecting with people
Yeah.
and to help them transform. And that is, in my opinion, what humanity's about.
Yeah. Oh, the transactional. It's so interesting. The transactional relationship. It's really interesting because I moderate a lot of groups. I'm also a coach in a number of programs. And it's been very, very interesting to see the shift in behavior in the last couple of years.
Right.
Of like how some people feel very entitled to like your time and your attention, and how other people are just have such grace and understanding.
Right.
It's honestly why, I tend to work with, I want to say older clients, and older, I'm putting myself in that category. But, folks who have been through some stuff. I mean, my client had lost her mother, right? Other folks, you don't understand it until you go through it.
Right.
You're navigating things like nursing homes or, end-of-life care, like all these heavy, heavy things.
You can't box that stuff up and put it away.
Yeah, you can't. And having someone who's kind of like walking that walk with you or has gone through that, who will be like, you just need to take the week off, or
Right.
you just need to go deal with this, or you just, here's how I can help you. And that's why too, it's harder for me to work with, say, younger folks in some way, just because they haven't had those experiences. I love supporting newbie business owners in a couple of programs that I get to
Yeah, of
mentor in.
course. Yeah.
But my longer term folks typically tend to be, 50 and up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit. You had a really funny answer when you and I were chatting about heroes the other day. So tell me about how you answered the question when I said, well, I know who you love, right? You love these types of people.
Yeah.
But who are your heroes?
Oh, see, I was like, I'm going to screw up your show. I no longer believe in heroes.
I love that.
I really don't. I think we also put a lot of pressure on people of like, well, who do you look up to? And like, almost every woman business owner is going to be like, oh, Sarah, the woman from Spanx or like whatever. And the pressure of like, well, I need to achieve this, billion-dollar company and IPO. Fantastic. Awesome. I'm super stoked that she accomplished that. That's not at all what I want for myself.
Right.
And I think too, because I've worked in this industry for a long time, I've also seen behind the curtain. And
Right.
I've seen what can happen. I mean, the last 2 years have been utter tumultuous like in the online business
Yes.
space, and I've seen behind the curtain of how people behave, how people show up, what happens when a team disintegrates. And it's a lot of people who are in like the online business space like to think that they're better than corporate, or they're
Right.
better than, if they're entrepreneurs. It's no different. You're
Right.
still dealing with politics. You're still navigating, personal behavior. You're still showing up in a certain way, and it's
Because you're dealing with people.
because you're dealing with people and humanity, and
Yeah.
it's like, there are people I respect,
Of course.
but everybody that I've kind of put on a pedestal has disappointed me.
Right. Because we're not meant to live on a pedestal. We're meant to live on the land, like on
Yeah.
Earth.
Yeah,
So let's be there first.
yeah. What impresses me is when someone stumbles, how do they recover?
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Especially in the time and day of like cancel cultures, like we're going to write somebody off completely because of X, Y, Z.
Nope.
Or do we give them some grace to be like, all right, I effed up, here's how I'm going to fix it, and here's how I'm going to
Absolutely.
make my next steps.
Yep. Fantastic. So tell me a little bit about when people meet you.
Well, last couple of years it's been virtual.
Yeah, fantastic.
So, yeah.
What is surprising about you?
I mean, on a physical sense, I'm a little itty bitty person, so I'm only like 5'2". So people are always like, I thought you were much taller. I wear a lot of platform boots when I go out.
Oh, show the boots.
Shoes,
they're
yeah. But I
fantastic.
tend to wear a lot of
the shoes. The
you
shoes,
know,
yeah.
I tend to wear a lot of, like, they're in the closet, you know,
Right.
because of, the last 2 years. But I think what surprises folks is I'm kind of more sassy than they expect.
Mm-hmm.
I have a little bit of a wicked tongue.
I love that.
And I tend to hide it until I get to know someone, and then I let it out, because it's, again, I want to have fun with people, and I love people who are quick-witted. That my best clients, like, super quick-witted. We have fun. We're a little snarky. I mean, the emojis we send each other is hilarious.
I mean, I think that's really important to have.
It's really important, and it's because that sense of humor, like when things are going in the shitter and you're just like, oh my god, or like this launch isn't happening or whatever, like whatever, you throw a little poop emoji,
Yep.
why not have a little bit of fun with this, and a lot of just, hey, it is what it is, and here's how we're going to resolve it. So that's a big one for me. I think when I'm doing like my consults, people are like, oh my God, I didn't expect that much information, because I have, I have this design eye, but I also have the data back end, and I also know how stuff gets put together. I really hate seeing people screwed. I've gotten screwed before with tech providers, and I bridge this gap almost like a translator between people who are technical and people who aren't technical. And so I think people are surprised with the knowledge that I have, and also that I'm not trying to get people to spend more money than they have.
I love that.
I mean, I've bootstrapped my entire business, and I know so many people that have, and it's interesting. My husband's more in the startup world now, and so there's folks with investors and things, and I've always gone the other route.
Same here.
And served folks who aren't in that space, and so I'm very, very conscious and mindful of this may be their last, $3 to $5K that they had to spend on something, or whatever it is, and
so make it good.
Make it good, make it make sense, and I just hate to see people screwed over.
Yeah.
That's just, it drives me mad.
Yeah, I think that a lot of the time that people think that, again, back to our original point of, they think that they need something certain, and you really don't.
Yeah.
You need to have connections. You need to know how to communicate with people. You need to know what you deliver.
Oh yeah.
And then you need to deliver it.
Yeah.
And have that consistency.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same for a lot of different people.
God, it's so important. This is the other thing why I don't love heroes or gurus, is I see it so much in my space of oh, well, X told me I have to use this system, and I'm like, no, you can just sell through email. You can just sell through a DM. People feel like they have to do exactly what somebody else is doing.
Nope.
And I see it so much of
templates don't work all the time for everybody.
They don't work all the time, and it's like, oh, I see X has this success, and I used to get this a lot when I was doing a lot more web design. I want you to design exactly what you did for this person. I'm like, you won't have their success,
right?
Because you're not.
Yep.
You're not them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that everybody wants to be assured of those things, and yet it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have the same success.
Yeah.
Because it's more about you than it is about them.
Exactly. So,
tell me a little bit about what's next for you.
So what's next? So for 2022, I am actually working on a revamped website guide. I'm very, very excited about this. I know it sounds super sexy. But again, because I've done hundreds of website reviews, I've seen so many commonalities of what people are missing and where they're missing opportunities. And so that's a big one for me, is just giving people empowerment to actually look at something, evaluate, and either do it themselves or have the knowledge to hire someone to fix the issues, to make their whole digital presence really much more successful and work for them. So that's first thing. I'll be coaching in a couple of programs that I was coaching.
Great.
And I'm launching, relaunching a membership with my main client, and we're also probably launching a mastermind in Q1 or Q2.
Fantastic. All right. Where can people find out more about you?
So you can find me at minimadadesigns.com. I'm also at instagram.com/minimadadesigns, where you'll see pictures of my dog. So that's about, I'm really all about the newsletter. So that's I try to write a weekly or twice a month newsletter where I just share all my digital nuggets to make your life better.
And your dog, hopefully.
And my dog, hopefully, if he's, still kicking.
Fingers crossed. Thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you. Such a pleasure.
Thanks so much for joining me today. Go ahead and and leave me a comment. I'd love to hear what you have to say. If you don't want to miss anything, click that subscribe button.